Greetings, everybody. So I'd like to show you this problem which I'm working right now on MyMathLab. I'll enter my answers in the same way that you would if you were working the problem, and we'll look at the results. So I'm given reference to a function, but only by graph. So there's no equation that I could work with. There's no formula I can work with. I just see that this curve, which appears to be a parabola, is the function. Okay, and we'll talk about what this red line is in a minute. So I'm given that, and then I'm asked to calculate what is f of 2 and f prime of 2. That's the way I would read that. Okay, so the meanings there between those two things is that f of 2 is just what is y if x is 2 according to the function, either by formula or maybe by the points on the graph. But it just says what's y if x is 2. There's lots of ways you can figure that out, because a function is just x and y. You input the x, you get the y back out as an output. Then f prime of 2 means this. It says what's the slope of the curve at the point where x is 2. So one is just asking me to identify the point in terms of the x and y coordinate, and the other one is what's the slope of the curve at the point. Okay, so let's see if we can do both of those. F of 2, well, that would be the easier one, I think. I could just look at the curve here. So I see that point's clearly marked. It's in fact where x is 2, and it gives me y to be 3. Okay, so there's nothing to it really. I just have to say that it's 3. If x is 2, it turns out y is 3 by the information on the graph. So I put it in that way and it's correct. Okay, then for the slope of the curve at 2. Well, so first, it might seem a little strange that a curve can have a slope. A line can obviously have a slope because it would just be the rise over the run for the line. But, you know, a curve like bends and turns and it's not straight. So it just seems like it's a weird question to ask for the slope of a curve. But a curve only appears curved at the vantage point that we see it. So if I zoomed into this close enough, it would appear straight. At a small enough scale, that curve would start to appear straight. And I can even see that this line that they've drawn for reference, which seems to intersect this curve at the point where x is 2, just blends in with it. You know, if you looked right here, if you could zoom in right around that point, I get the feeling that you wouldn't see two things. You wouldn't see this line and the curve as separate things. They would merge together. The curve would appear straight. Okay, so that's an experiment you can do for yourself. If you can get a picture, a curve, and the line like that with high enough resolution to keep zooming in, at a certain point you can't tell them apart. This is called the tangent line to the curve. Okay, it will intersect the curve at this point of tangency, 2 in this case, and it has the slope of the curve at that point. So that gives me a way to measure the slope of the curve at 2. It's just the slope of this line in red, also called the tangent line. So how could we do that? Well, I've got a scale here for reference. I can find the slope of the curve by calculating the rise over the run for any 2 points on the curve. So this point is clearly marked, but so is that one. This point is 2 and 3. This point is 3 and 5. But I could just do like this. On this line, you run 1 and you rise 2. That gives you a slope of 2 over 1 or just 2. So the slope of that line's 2, but that's also the slope of the curve at this point. Okay, so 2 has got to be it. F prime 2 is 2. The slope of the curve at the point where x equals 2 is 2 over 1 or 2. So we'll check that and it will be right. Okay, so that's a simple example for a much bigger concept. If we go through this assignment and see some of the other problems, finding this f prime calculation may be a little harder. It may take a little bit more work to get there. We might not have a graph to refer to, but I still have the basic meaning of these two concepts right here outlined in this problem.